Thank you so much, Honorable Babu Owino, for giving me this opportunity to interact with our precious learners. My name is Mr. Clement, and I'll be taking you through geography from Form 1 to Form 4. Thank you so much and welcome Form 1s. For our today's lesson, we are going to look at Introduction to Geography. And geography is a very nice subject. Have a positive mindset and you're going to learn. Let's go to the lesson. Our objectives in this study is, number one, as you see the learners, at the end of this lesson, you're supposed to know what is geography. So we are going to see what are the definitions of geography. Remember, geography is a very old term, and you're going to see what are the definitions and what are the examiner's requirement when you are required to define geography. Number two, we are going to see what is environment. I believe everybody is at home right now, and you are in an environment at home. So we are going to see what is environment, what is near our environment, what do we interact in our environment, what are the characteristics of a good environment, what are also we're going to see what is ecology, what is habitat. All these terms, we are going to look at them, and then you're going to see the branches of geography. How many are they? I know you've seen them, but you're going to learn more about them. So our precious learners, we are going to start immediately to definition to geography. As we see, is a scientific study. My precious learners, this is what you're supposed to understand. Geography is not a humanity as per se, and it is not a science as per se. It's a bridge between the sciences and the humanities. And that's why we say it's a scientific study. And in this study, we are going to look at the earth as a home of humankind. And then, number two, we are told these are interrelationship and distribution. When you talk about interrelationship, we are talking about two things or three things. But in this kind, in this manner, you're going to see at human and physical. You as human, how do you relate to the earth? What effects are you bringing to the earth? What is the relationship between you and the earth? So in the second definition, you're told this is the interrelationship and distribution. When you talk about distribution, you're talking about spatial or space. Like for example, the neighborhood, between your home and the neighborhood, that is space. There is some maybe meters or kilometers. Maybe between one city to the other, Nairobi and Kisumu, there is a space. So the interrelationship and distribution. What are the relationship and distribution of natural, like what is the distribution of lakes? That is natural. And we're talking about physical, and human, like for example, buildings, roads, and so forth in the earth surface. No, we are going to see now what is the interrelationship, the relationship of these two things, that is natural and human phenomena on the earth surface. Like for example, when you talk about distribution of railways, we talk about distribution of roads, distribution of buildings, distribution of lakes, of maybe rivers, and how do you relate? How does these features relate to the human activities, and how does human activities relate to these features? So I'm going again to take you back. Geography is the scientific study. This is very precious, learners. Don't leave this behind in your definition. It is a scientific study, and you're going to look at different scenarios of the earth as environment of man. And when you talk about environment, we are talking about a home of human. So again, taking you back, the relationship and distribution of natural or physical and human phenomena on the earth surface. Thank you so much. Again, you're going to see what is the definition of environment. I told you, you're at home, when you go to maybe see your grandmother, what is the environment? So environment here are external conditions. Very important, external conditions. External conditions surrounding organism which has influence over its behavior. Like for example, your neighbors are part of the environment. Your friends are part of the environment. And these are external conditions. Learners, these are external conditions, and in one way or another, they influence your behavior. Like an animal that lives in a park is different with an animal that lives maybe at home. So these different environments influence behavior of different organisms. So these are external conditions. These are external conditions surrounding an organism, and these conditions can be maybe the human being, can be natural phenomena, can be maybe buildings, can be friends. So anything that surrounds you, that is part of your environment. Again, you're going to see two different types of environment, and this environment must influence over the behavior of an organism, be it man, be it human, and any other. So it must influence your behavior. I'll just give you an example of a dog. A dog that maybe you see these security dogs and so forth. These dogs are kept whereby people are not there. So you can see these dogs become fires. That is the behavior because the surrounding of that dog is not adapted to seeing human. And you can relate this to dogs that just walk around. These dogs cannot be used for security purposes. Then you can see how these external conditions of these two types of dog influence over a behavior of an organism. Thank you so much. So environment can be divided into two. And number one can be divided into physical environment, and number two can be divided into human environment. When you talk about physical environment, we talk about natural phenomena. And that's why we're saying it's natural physical conditions. These are things that you cannot create. You just find them where they are. You can just have influence over them, but you cannot create them. So these are natural physical conditions, like for example, weather. The weather of a place, you just found it the way it is. It cannot change, but you can influence it. Like for example, even climate, vegetation, you can have influence over vegetation, but you cannot create. You can have influence over animals, but you cannot create animals. Soils, again, you can see soils of different areas are different. Landforms. Landforms here we are talking about the relief features, go to Mount Kenya, Kilimanjaro, the Everest, all these other things. You cannot change them, but you can have influence over them. Drainage. The drainage of Nairobi city, maybe Nairobi County, we could talk about Kisumu. The drainage of these different areas, they are so much different. So it's a natural, very important, natural physical conditions, e.g. weather, climate, vegetation, animal, soil, landforms, and drainage. So these are natural. You cannot create them, but you can have influence over them. Thank you so much. Number two, we have human environment. So these are human activities such as farming, forestry, mining, tourism, settlement, transportation, trade, industry. All these are human activities. And at the end of the day, these activities, they bring income to a country. They bring income to a nation. So when you talk about, for example, farming, these are human activities. Different counties produce different crops. Like for example, Trans Nzoia, maize. When you go to other parts of the country, like Kericho, tea. So those are human activities. When you go to forestry, different types of forest. We have planted forest. Mining. Mining, we can have minerals, but for you to get these minerals, it must come out through human activities. So they are human activity. Tourism, when you go to Amboseli, you go to Masai Mara, Savo. Settlement, the settlement in Nairobi County, the settlement in Uasin-Gishu, the settlement in Nakuru, transportation, different types, the SGR, the roads, the air transports, trade, different markets and industry. So those are things that we are going to look at it later in the other forms, but mainly two things you are supposed to get here. We have two types of environment. Number one is the physical, which is the natural, and number two is the human environment that comprises of human activities. So we are going to again to define these terms, ecology and habitat. So when you talk about ecology, these are a set of external surroundings that influence the development and behavior of specific living things. Set of external surrounding. When you talk about set of something, we are talking about a number of it, not one, a number. So what are these things that surround an organism that influence? So very important for you to note. Very important for you to note that influence the development and behavior of living organism. What are these set of external surrounding that influence your development? Like for example, a child develops. What are these things that influence the behavior of that child? Maybe for example is the friends. The friends are drug addicts. The friends are good people. So at the end of the day, these friends are set of external surrounding that are going to influence the development and behavior of that organism, which is that child. Number 2, habitat. So these are home that provides physical condition. When you talk about physical, we are talking about a home. Like for example, it's a house. All of you guys are living in houses, different types of houses. So those are physical. It must be physical. It's not something that is in the air, not a vacuum. So it must be physical condition under which certain plants and animal lives. And remember, animals comprises of human beings. Like for example, what makes a plant to survive in a certain condition and not in another condition? Some plants develop well in arid areas, others in semi-arid, others in other climatic conditions. Even animals, different animals are able to live and survive in different kinds of environments, whereby the home that provides that physical condition under which a certain plant and animal live is called a habitat. Thank you so much. Sorry. We are going again to go to the branches of geography. Our dear learners, geography has 2 main branches, only 2. So that is the physical geography. Now this entails in the natural phenomena. Number 2, it has human and economic geography. Remember, human relates to economic, whereby when you talk about trade, for you to do trade, human must be there, then brings economy in that trade, then money and so forth. There is this other branch called practical geography. Practical geography comes in between physical and human and economic geography. This is by when you say, like for example, in a physical geography, you have to go to the field, you have to go and do some research. So that is practical. Even when you're going to do some research about maybe economic activities in Nairobi County, that is practical. So practical geography comes in between the 2, both human and physical. So these are the 2 branches, but again, this is that branch, but it cuts across the 2. So very fast, physical geography deals with the study of natural physical environment of humankind. Natural. This is something that you cannot create. It's natural. It's something that just came into existence, but you can have influence over it. So deals with the study of natural physical environment of a humankind or human being. There are areas whereby we are going to study in physical geography. Very fast, our dear learners. Geology. This is the first one. So these just among them. We have others. We have geomorphology. Then we have climatology. All these are areas that we are going to look into in physical geography in our next classes. Pedology, biogeography. We have hydrology. We have glaciology, and we have oceanography. So we are going to define these terms and see what it entails in each one of them. Thank you so much. So we are going to start with geology. So geology is the scientific study of origin. So things to note in this class is, number 1, for you to know is scientific, very important. So is a study and is a science of the origin, the genesis. When you talk about origin, you're talking about the genesis of something. Again, structure. You're talking about a structure and composition. So 4 things. Like for example, when I'm going to ask you to define the term geology, the things that I'm going to look at is the scientific, I give you a tick, again origin, then structure, again composition. When I give you half in each one, you're going to get 2 marks. you're going to get 2 marks. But when you miss one, you're going to lose everything. So very important, scientific study of origin. Where does it come from? The structure. Like for example, is it spherical? Is it in another shape, maybe rectangular? Again, the composition of the earth. The people who do this study are called geologists. So if you are, remember geography is a career subject, so if at all you go and proceed in education in campus, in university, again you go study in the field of geology, you're going to become a geologist. So if you're asked who is a geologist, say these are people who study geology. And what is geology? Is the scientific study of origin, structure, and composition of the earth surface. Very important. Number 2, climatology. Again, very important. Climatology is the scientific study, to note, of the atmosphere, scientific study of the atmosphere and weather patterns over time. So scientific study, a half a mark, of the atmosphere and weather. So again, you're going to get your 2 marks. So this field of science focuses in recording. Like for example, do you have a weather station in your school? What you do there, number 1, you'll be recording that data. You'll analyze that data over maybe a week or a month and so forth of these weather patterns throughout the world and understanding the atmospheric conditions. What is the atmospheric conditions in your area? So maybe I give you an assignment in this part. Do a simple, get a thermometer at your home. You can buy one or do so. So get a thermometer and start recording the weather condition of temperature alone. So record and analyze after a month. Then you can do the mean monthly or the mean weekly temperature of your area. So the science focuses in recording, analyzing of weather patterns throughout the world and understanding the atmospheric conditions that causes them. What causes rain? What causes the dry conditions in that area? Is it the influence of plants and animals? Is it the influence of the buildings? And so forth. So again, the people who study this area, they are called climatologists. They are called climatologists. Okay. We are going again to go to pedology. So pedology is the scientific study, so very important. You have to note. Okay, sorry students. So is the scientific study of origin. So scientific study of origin, nature, and distribution, and potentiality use of soil resources. So these are things to note. Scientific study of origin, number 1, where does soil come from? The nature of this soil, where is it from? Number 2, how is soil distributed in the land of Kenya? Number 3, potentiality of the uses or the resources. What are scientific study of the origin, nature, distribution, and potentiality of the use of this soil? Like for example, how do you use soil in your home? Like for example, do you use it for farming? Do you use it for maybe making the houses? Do you people export, or do you people give, like for example, how do you use this soil? So the study of pedology mainly wants to look at the origin of this soil, the nature maybe the size and so forth, this distribution of the soil. I know different areas have different types of soil, and how the uses of this soil. Now the people who study these are called pedologists. Our dear learners, let's go back a little bit to see geomorphology. So geomorphology is the scientific study of origin. So is the scientific study of origin. So scientific. Remember, all these studies are scientific. They are scientific, totally scientific. Study of origin. Origin, you're talking about the genesis, the composition. What is it composed of? Then the earth, structure of the earth, including the origin of rocks. So this is a wider study. Is a wider study of pedology. So this covers everything. It includes geology inside. We have pedology inside. So geomorphology is a wider study of these areas dealing with the earth. So scientific study of origin, composition, and structure of the earth, including the origin of rocks, the origin of soils, and so forth. My dear learners, you can become a geomorphologist. So geomorphologists, these are people who study and practice, or these are practitioners of geomorphology. I hope that is okay with you. So we are going to go to the next one. So we've looked at climatology, we've looked at pedology. So let's go to the next one, which is called biogeography, coming from the word biology. So biology plus geography brings biogeography. So this is the study, biogeography is the study, so it is the scientific study of the distribution and ecosystems in geographic space through geological time. Very important things to note. My dear learners, keep noting these things. Scientific study, you get a mark of the distribution of species. My dear learners, you are one of the species. So why are you dark, or why are you white, why are you and other species? So we're going to talk about animals again, the cows and ecosystems. So what are these ecosystems? Distribution of ecosystem. Like for example, we have ecosystems in different parts of the country. So we are going to look at it. Of geographic space. So how are they related in geographic space? Like for example, the ecosystem of Masai Mara is different with that of Tsavo. So the species found in Masai Mara is different with that of Tsavo. So scientific study of the distribution of these species and their ecosystem in geographic space. Like for example, Amboseli, through geological time. Does it change? If you practice that, you're being called biogeographer. You're going to be called biogeographer. Let's go to the next one, hydrology. This is a very fertile field, very green. So is a scientific study. So this again is the scientific study of occurrence. So very important things to note in this one. Remember, this is a foundation course. So scientific study of occurrence. So we are going to see movement, distribution, and management of water on the earth and other planets. Very important. Scientific study of occurrence. How does this water occur? Then how does it move and distribute? And you as a human being, how do you manage this water? Again, management of this water on the Earth's surface and other planets. So are these other planets habitable? So again, if they're habitable, again, so the scientific study of this occurrence of this water, movement, distribution, management of water in other planets. So it includes the water cycle. So this is something you're going to learn, the water cycle. Like for example, evaporation and so forth, raining, water resources, and environmental watersheds sustainability. Remember, we have different types of watersheds. So it basically deals with water. So if you're going to practice this in future, you will be called hydrologist. So hydrologist is a person who practices hydrology. Thank you so much, our dear learners. Hope this is so beneficial to you. We are going to go to the next, which is called glaciology. Glaciers are mainly found in these cold areas, maybe towards to the north and majorly towards to the south. So people who live in the equator, we don't have this kind of scenario, but we have glaciers. So let's look at it. So is a scientific discipline concerned with the aspects of ice on the land masses. So basically, these are very short definition, and so these are short definition. So is the scientific discipline, so you can talk about scientific study, that is quite okay, concerned with all aspects of ice on the landforms or land masses. So how does ice occur? These are field you're going to go into deep when you get to Form 3. So I hope you're going to get there. So scientific discipline concerned with all aspects of ice on land masses. So it deals with the structure, very important. How does ice looks like? And properties of glacier ice. So it's a formation, distribution, its formation and distribution. How does ice form? How does it distribute? Like for example, on the Mount Everest, on Mount Kilimanjaro, on Mount Kenya, we have different types of, or we have ice. We talk about glaciers. So remember, we have ice, we have glaciers, and so forth. So its formation, how does this ice form? Forming of the ice and distribution. And also the dynamics of ice flow. Remember, we have, whereby some countries, we have ice flow and the interactions and accumulation of the ice with the climate. So this is an area whereby it's very fertile again. So if you're going to practice these, you're going to be called a glaciologist. So a glaciologist is a person who study and practice glaciology. Thank you so much. Let's go to the next one, which is called Oceanography. So Oceanography is a scientific discipline concerned with all aspects of world oceans. My dear Lana, how many oceans do we have in the country, how many oceans do we have in the world? So it also deals with sea. You could talk about the Red Sea, the Indian Ocean, the Atlantic, all these, the Mediterranean, all these kinds of seas and oceans. The study of these seas and ocean is called oceanography. Again, it includes the physical, so very important. Let me tell you how you're going to get these. So, scientific discipline, very important, concerned with all aspects of the world, oceans and sea. All world, oceans and sea, including their physical characteristics of these oceans, their physical characteristics of these seas. So, physical, very important. Biological again. Remember, when you talk about biological, we have animals living in seas and oceans, the whales, the dolphins, talk about all those. And then their chemical, three things, properties. So how many properties? Three. Physical, biological, and chemical. Again, their origin stroke ancient history. So where do these oceans, how do they originate? How did they come into being? So what is their origin? What is their ancient history? And what is their geologic framework and their life forms? So we are talking about oceans of the past, oceans in the current, and oceans in the future. So you're talking about their history. So when you talk about their geologic framework, you talk about their past, their current, and their future. So their life forms and inhabit the marine environment. So if you're going to study this area, you're going to be called an oceanographer. You're going to be called an oceanographer. So again, it's a very nice field in geography. So those are the areas we've looked into physical geography, and that is the end. So we are going to continue into human and economic geography. Remember, I told you two fields in geography, or two branches in geography. Number one, physical. Number two, human and economic. Not human alone. You're going to lose. If you're told, can you list two branches of geography? You say number one, physical. Number two, human and economic. Because without human, there is no economic. And economic relates to human being. Thank you so much. So this is a study of people. The study of people in different countries, different continents, and their activities on the surface of the earth. So another assignment, student. What are the economic activities practiced in your area, home country? So what do people do to earn a living? Do these people mine? Do these people maybe trade? Are these people maybe doing farming? In terms of farming, talk about crop cultivation, animal farming, and so forth, the livestock keeping. So the study of people and their activities. Remember, people, activities. So human, economic. People, activities. Very important. Let me highlight that so that you're able to know it well. So we are talking about people, again, activities, their activities on the earth surface. So again, you have people in your neighborhood. Can you go and check what activities they are doing? Whatever you'll be doing is called the second branch of geography, called human and economic geography. So let's go to the next slide. So the areas covered in these, my dear learners, is mining. So one of the activities you're going to see is mining. Number two, forestry. You're going to see people doing lumbering and so forth. Agriculture. Basically, agriculture has two fields. Agriculture has two fields. So it has two areas. Number one, you have animals. Now, we have animals, and number two, we have livestock. So, sorry a bit. So we have animal, okay. So we have animal, and we have animal stroke livestock, and we have crop cultivation. We have crop cultivation. So these are things, again, you're going to look. So in agriculture, very well, animal or livestock keeping, and then we have crop cultivation, like for example, tea, coffee, so forth. Fishing, near the lakes, near the ocean, near the rivers. We have wildlife and tourism. You know these areas. Industry, very important. I know you may know one or two industry nearby in your homes. Energy, solar energy, talk about all these types of energy, trade, and so forth. So again, an assignment, go see what people do in your neighborhood again as an assignment. So these are the areas that are covered in this study, Human and Economic Geography. Number one is called Population Geography, which is the same as demography. When you talk about this, is the study of people. So things that you're going again to note, my dear learners, for you to get a mark in an exam scenario, things you're supposed to note: study of people. Study of people. Like for example, when you go to US, you're going to study people there. And their spatial distribution. So these people are spaced. Like for example, when you talk about the Indus, the Asians, we talk about the Africans. So our skin is a bit dark. We talk about the whites. So these people are not the same. So they are distributed in terms of space, meaning spatial. Composition. What are these people composed of? What are the characteristics of these people? So this is another area. Growth. Growth. Is the population high? Migratory movements. Do these people have an origin of migration? Where did they come from? What is their future prospects? So this is another area. And their characteristics. And lastly, destiny. So if you name 4 of these, you're going to get a mark. Don't forget, study of people, you get a mark. Their spatial distribution, a mark. Remember, it has 2 marks. Composition, another half mark. Their growth, another half mark. So with that, you're okay. You can get a mark. You can add migratory movements, their characteristics, and lastly, their density. Remember, these people live maybe very close, clustered, and so forth. Spacious because of farming and so forth. So make sure you list. So study of people, their spatial distribution, composition, growth, migratory movements, and their characteristics, and their destiny. So I hope with that you're okay. Let's go to the second one. So we are going to look at economic geography. So this is the study of economic activities. How do you get money? Study of economic activities. Number one, we get money through trade. So through trade. Through trade. Number 2, agriculture. So just to name a few, agriculture, transport and communication. So study of economic activities. These economic activities, there are so many. You can't list all of them. Just list one. You're good to go. So study of economic activities such as trade and so forth. Remember, it focuses on commercial activities. Commercial activities. So you can name more commercial activities that you know near your neighborhood. And exploitation of resources. Exploitation of resources, you're going to look at maybe the forest. How do you exploit the forest? What are the different types? Like when you compare forest in Canada, forest in Kenya, forest in mining. How do we mine? How do we fish? How do we trade? How do we exchange our money? So these are things you're going to look at in this economic geography. So majorly deals with the resources, number 1. So deals with the resources when you talk about the goals and goods, and then the services, banking services, educational services. So making money and so forth. So majorly study of economic activities such as trade, etc. focuses on commercial activities and their exploitation of resources. I've told you, how do you exploit your forests? majorly deals with goods and services. Political geography. So these are geographical analysis of political. So these are geographical analysis of political studies. I know some of you want to become politicians and you want to analyze politics, maybe politics of the US, politics of the Africa, and so forth. And remember, this follows a certain trend. So geographical analysis of political studies. So analysis, very important, very vital word, analysis of geographical studies. Another word, dealing with the distribution of political regions. So this is another area again I'm going to tell you. Remember, the distribution of these political regions was different. Before our 2010 constitution, our distribution of these political regions were in terms of provinces. The Rift Valley province, talking about the eastern, the northeastern, the Nairobi, and so forth. But now the distribution of these political regions are different. We are talking about the counties, and in this scenario, Kenya, we are talking about 47 counties. So how do people distribute their political regions? We have the county, then we have the sub-county. Again, I don't know, we don't have districts anymore. So we are talking about the county, the sub-county, and so forth. There are spatial expressions, very important. Political ideals. What are your political ideals? What are the political ideals of your neighbors? Again, there are geographic factors. What makes these ideals become how they are because of the geographical factors? Okay, very important. Influencing political activities and problems. So all this study is called political geography. So it analyzes political study, dealing with the political regions, or we're talking about distribution of political regions, spatial expressions. So how are they distributed in terms of space? And again, we are talking about, for example, these all counties are not the same size. You may find that Kiambu is bigger than Nairobi. We're talking about Kajiado, maybe is smaller than another county. So why? Spatial expression. Are we counting people to have this spatial expression? Political ideals, geographical factors influencing the political activities and problems. So the study that deals with that is called political geography. Very fast, students, medical geography. So for you students who, again, you are a good geographer, there's another field called medical geography. And in this field, students, so it's the study of the distribution of the diseases. So we want to see how these diseases are distributed. So distribution of diseases and disease-causing organisms. Disease-causing organisms. What causes bilharzia? What causes malaria? What causes typhoid? So whatever we look at is why are different diseases distributed in different parts of the country? We are talking about corona right now. So distribution of corona and the disease-causing organism of COVID. So we want to talk about distribution here. We want to look at the factors. Why is COVID more rampant in area A as compared to area B? So the area that deals with that is called medical geography. So our area here, we are not looking at the internal parts of medicine and so forth. We want just to look at the factors. Not whatever treats, is the factors that lead to the distribution of these diseases and what are the causing organisms. And then it emphasizes on their relationship with, so very important relationship with geographical phenomenon. Okay, so that's why we are talking of corona rampant in an area A as compared to area B. That is distribution of this disease. What is the disease-causing organism? We know it. It's called COVID. That is the virus. Emphasizing on their relationship. What is the relationship of corona with Nairobi as compared to Nakuru? Why do people maybe in a certain area die of COVID as compared to another area? That is medical geography. Same to malaria, same to bilharzia, same to typhoid, same to other diseases. What makes this disease in plants and animals, and what is their relationship to geographical phenomena? So let's continue. Historical geography. So this is the study of the past. It is the study of the past, human. So past, very important. Past human geography of a place, which puts emphasis on how people existed. And so very important, how do people existed and evolved? So majorly, it really relates with history, your history studies, history and government studies. So you want to look at the past. So what is the past? What is the present? And what is the future? Do we still evolve? Has evolve ended? So and so forth. So we don't want to look at those details. Whatever we look here is study of past human. What were their economic activity? So of a place which put emphasis on how people existed. Were these people farmers? Were they livestock keepers? And are they evolved? So existed and evolved in their past. So those are area, again, that is dealing with human and economic geography. So urban geography, so is the study of the cities and urban areas. So study of cities. So if you put that, you get a half a mark. And urban processes. So cities, urban, the same thing. So these are 1 point, or you get a mark, so you get a half there. So study of cities and urban processes. A picture showing Nairobi in 1930 is not a picture showing Nairobi in 1970, and it's not a picture showing Nairobi currently. Those pictures are different, totally different. So what are these urban processes? What made Nairobi to be Nairobi? Why was Nairobi not in Machakos and so forth? So which concerned with the relationship among people and between people and their environments. People in Nairobi, how are they? People in Kisumu, how are they? So study of cities and urban processes, which is concerned with the relationship among people, very true, between people, okay, and their environments in cities. Remember, New York is not the same as Nairobi. In towns, different towns, not the same across the world. So is the study of cities and urban areas. So again, very, very important. Remember, we have a study called urban planning. So people who deal with these areas go and measure in those areas, and a very nice field. So our dear learners, that is human and economic geography. Lastly, we are going to look at practical geography. So practical geography is a branch of geography which equips learners with the practical skills and aspects. So equips learners with the practical, very important skills. Skills, whatever you can do with your bare hands, and enhance their understanding and interpretation. So very important. Enhance your understanding and interpretation of human and physical geographical information. Very simple, learners. I send you to the field to collect data. What are you going to learn there? Timekeeping, practical skills. How to collect data, recording, practical skills. So practical aspects, what you can do without learning. So you do practically. So equips learners with the practical skills and aspects and enhance their understanding. Remember, we are making geography being studied at the field in Nairobi County, outside your classroom, outside that class, to M and to K and so forth. So branch of geography equips learners with practical skills that enhance your understanding and how you interpret human, we've looked at human already, and physical geographical information. Like for example, how do you see population of Nairobi? How do you interpret the population of Nairobi? How do you analyze, and how will you collect data on their economic activities? Whatever you look at, that is called practical geography. So the areas covered in these are called statistical method, Form 1 work, Form 2 work, Form 3. Form 1 work around topic 4, Form 2 topic again there, topic 4 I think. When you go to Form 3 topic 1, Form 4 topic 1. So these are areas you're going to look in practical geography, statistical method. When you talk about comparative bar graph, comparative line graph, simple bar graph, simple line graph, choropleth and so forth. So statistical method, map work, Form 2, very important, maps, field work, and lastly, photography work. I know you guys like taking photographs. So whatever you're doing is practical skills Nobody taught you how to use a phone and take a photograph. You did it without being taught. So very simple. Fieldwork. Again, you go to the city and start counting vehicles. Who taught you to do that? You did it yourself. You start recording. The white vehicles are 4. The blue ones are 10. And so forth. Who taught you to do this? Yourself. So practical skills. Practical aspects. So these are the only 4 areas that you're going to look at. And very important. Let's go to the 4 of them. Statistical methods. So these are models. These are models. So these are models. So these are models, techniques, and mathematical formulas. So how many things? 3. Very important in statistical method. Models, techniques, and mathematical formulas that are used in statistical analysis. I've given you a very simple example of counting vehicles, maybe colors of vehicles in Nairobi. So statistical analysis of raw researched data. So a data of maybe vehicles. You go and see maybe you have 10 tall buildings in Nairobi. So that is raw researched data. So how are you going to use these techniques? How do you are going to use these models and mathematical formulas being used in statistical analysis and research of data? So that area deals with statistical methods. Very fast learners map work involves drawing pictures. I know you people like drawing pictures. Some of you do art and design. So drawing of pictures, maps, geographical maps, topographical maps, and so forth. Plans. I know if you're a scout, you can use a map to travel from here to Trans Nzoia, from maybe Nakuru to Uganda, and so forth. So using of maps. So using of pictures. So number 1, drawing and using of pictures, maps, and plans. House plans. Sorry. So involves drawing and using of pictures, maps, and plans. Thank you so much. Let's go to the next one. Fieldwork. So fieldwork is refers to collection of data. So so here the things I'm underlining very important. So Diana, let me help you here. So it refers to collection of raw data outside the classroom. Remember, this data is collected outside, not in your class, not in the laboratory, not in the library. That's why you have field studies. You go to Mombasa and collect data, which is outside the classroom. So these areas are outside these. It's outside the classroom, it's outside the laboratory, it's outside the library or the workplace. That is if you're working. So the act of using the field, so this is an act of using the field. Like for example, going to the lake. So you're using that lake as your field and you're taking that field in the, you're using your learning processes outside the field. So you're making that field the lab. You're making that field the classroom. You're making that field the library. So you go outside to collect data. So it helps you to know more about geography. So it emphasizes in some practical aspects of learning and teaching of geography. So fieldwork is also called field research. Majorly those people who do masters. Field teaching, and also it's called field study. So if you're told define fieldwork, another time you're told define field teaching, define field research, define field studies, the same thing. Don't get confused, my dear learners. Thank you so much. You're coming to an end. Okay, photography work. So photography work refers to taking of pictures. Again, let me highlight to you the main points that you're supposed to know in this area. So taking pictures and using a camera or a light. Remember, these are things that you learn in your physics. You learn in your physics. So taking pictures and using a camera or a light sensitive film. But nowadays we don't use film again, so we're just using a using a camera, so or paper to record data. So you can use a picture to record data on the number of cows, the number of buildings, the number of people. For example, I can give you a photo, then tell you, count how many people we have in this area or in this photo. So you are taking pictures using camera on light sensitive film or paper to record data using of data and using of the pictures and images and objects of places to present and analyze geographical information. So you are taking and using these pictures to analyze and present geographical information. So that is the use and the work of photography work. I believe, my dear learners, it has been a very wonderful lesson to you. Very quick. What is geography? What is environment? What is ecology? What is habitat? What are the branches of geography? Number 1, physical. Number 2, practical. Number 3, human and economic. Go into details, get some KCSE question and do. I wish you all the best. I was your teacher, Mr. Clement. Thank you.